Hello, this is Lillian Bell, and I'm about to read you Book 2 entitled The Rumbling Bush Monster. Life was good for Joey, Gullah and Koala. They'd found a safe place to live with plenty of eucalyptus leaves to feed on. Joey had made a new friend called Paws while exploring his new home. Paws didn't live high in the tree canopy. He lived in the grassland below the gum trees. Sometimes Joey would climb right down to the grass to explore. While Gullah and Koala were asleep one day, Joey decided to climb down to the grassland below the trees. He looked around before reaching the ground to see if he could find Paws in the long grass. Paws was hard to spot in the tall grass. He always liked to frighten Joey, concealing himself and then jumping out. Joey waited and sat quietly on the ground and looked intently into the long grass. He couldn't see Paws anywhere. Just as he was ready to climb back up the tree trunk, Paws jumped out, giving him a big fright. "Stop that, Paws!" Joey would say. But Paws just looked at him and bounced away. Paws would always show Joey new things to see and places to explore. "Come and meet my friend Blossom," he said excitedly. "Blossom? What sort of name is that?" thought Joey. "Blossom loves to eat flowers. She lives high in the tree canopy, but every now and then she comes down to say hello," explained Paws. They both wandered through the grassland, gently moving through the grasses and then disappearing without a trace. Just in front of them was a small overhanging branch heavy with flowers. "There she is!" shouted Paws with great excitement. He hadn't seen Blossom in a while. "Where? I can't see anything!" exclaimed Joey, while staring till his small eyes started to water. Paws pointed out the spot where Blossom clung. Sure enough, there was a tiny mouse-like creature with a delicate curly tail and big eyes feeding on a flower. Joey stared while Blossom moved effortlessly and gently around the flowers, licking the deep pink blossom nectar with gusto. He had never seen such a dainty creature in all his life. "Blossom is a pygmy possum, Joey, and she lives high in the tree canopy like you," said Paws, while bouncing closer to the flowers. "Pygmy possums live in a different gum tree to the ones you live in, Joey. A different world to you, in a world full of flowers. That's why you haven't seen one," proclaimed Paws with some authority. Joey and Paws played hide-and-seek in the tall grass, with Blossom looking up from time to time to see where they were. Paws was very good at the game. He would melt into the background and stay very still. Most of the time, Joey couldn't see him, and Paws would creep up behind him. Suddenly, there was a tremble in the ground. They both stopped and looked around. Never had they heard such a noise, as it penetrated their small bodies right to the top of their heads. Blossom scampered up the trunk of the tree and disappeared behind a clump of leaves. The rumbling got louder and louder until it felt like it was going to engulf them. Joey was terrified and wanted to climb up the tree with Blossom, but he couldn't leave Paws alone on the ground. They both huddled together behind a tree. Blossom cried out, "I can see something coming! It's a white cloud covering all the trees. It's moving fast!" But Joey and Paws couldn't hear her. The noise was right on top of them now, and the smell of the monster filled their young lungs and made them choke. The ground felt like it was going to explode around them. A white cloud started to descend all over the trees and grassland, right to the ground itself. There was a rush of hot air when the rumbling and the cloud disappeared. "What was that?" "A bush monster," said Joey, trembling with fear. "I don't know. I felt a vibration up through the ground many times, but never like that, never so close, never with a horrible smell and white cloud," Paws breathlessly exclaimed. "Did you see anything, Blossom?" shouted Paws, looking up into the tree. "No, all I could see was that white cloud and that awful smell, but nothing more. It was some sort of bush monster. I hear the indigenous people talk about it all the time," exclaimed Blossom. The three of them talked together for a while and decided that if they felt that vibration again, Joey was to climb the tree quickly and see what it was. It sounded like a good plan, if it was someone else looking for the monster, thought Joey. Maybe it won't ever happen. He hoped so. He was only a young koala and wasn't sure if he was that brave. They'd been playing for a while and it was time to go home. Gullah and Colas would be waking and wondering where he was. Joey was feeling very hungry and there wasn't anything to eat here. "Bye, Paws and Blossom, see you soon," said Joey while climbing the trunk of a tree. He was still thinking about the plan, a plan he wasn't happy about. He didn't want to see a monster. Joey decided he wouldn't tell Gullah and Colas about what had happened. A few weeks had gone by, and he hadn't seen Paws or felt any trace of the bush monster. But he still thought about it and wondered how Paws was. He lived on the ground in the grasslands. He couldn't climb a tree to hide from the bush monster. He started to worry. "I hope he's okay," he thought. Joey decided he would wait till Gullah and Colas were asleep and he would be off to see Paws. The next day he was able to leave. He moved effortlessly through the tree canopy till he could see the grassland below. Joey climbed down the tree trunk, watching the grass to see if he could see any movement, but all was quiet. No monster, no Paws. Joey was close to the ground when he heard Paws' voice. "Where have you been, Joey? I've been watching out for you for weeks," he said impatiently. Joey felt a little guilty. The truth was that Joey was frightened. He remembered how the timber getters had nearly caught him, and he didn't like the idea of watching out for the bush monster could snatch him from a tree. However, he just told Paws he couldn't get away. Said Paws, looking intently at Joey. He knew he was a young koala and hadn't experienced the bush like him. It was safe in the trees compared to the ground. "Come on, Joey. Let's explore and see what we can find," said Paws excitedly. Paws seemed to be enjoying this, thought Joey. He must want to find the bush monster. Soon they were at the very spot where they had heard the bush monster. Joey felt frightened. He could feel his eyes widening and staring. He was feeling everything, smelling everything, looking at everything, and he was jumpy. Paws, on the other hand, didn't look wide-eyed. He looked excited, as if he was out for an adventure. "Blossom, Blossom, where are you?" yelled Paws. There was no answer. "Where could she be?" said Joey with a quiver in his voice, thinking that the bush monster could have eaten her. Paws looked at Joey. He considered teasing him with some story, but decided this wasn't the time, although he really wanted to. He could see that Joey was on the brink of leaving. "Don't worry, Joey. Blossom is fine. I saw her yesterday. She's probably in another tree. She doesn't always come to say hello," said Paws casually. Paws led the way, and Joey followed gingerly. They moved through the long grass with ease. Every now and then they would stop and listen. The only sound they heard were birds and the wind rushing through the trees. Suddenly the grass cleared to a track. It wasn't the usual track that indigenous tribes would make on their way to festivals. The grass wasn't flattened or the ground hardened by generations of feet. There was no grass, just long pieces of timber spaced out on top of a long, hard line like a snake. But it had no head or tail and didn't move. It went on forever. There were two of them side by side. The animals were startled. What could this be? They'd never seen anything like it. Is this the bush monster they thought they saw? It didn't move. There was no white bellowing cloud, no vibrating ground. It didn't look very frightening, just different. They both looked intently at it for a while, and suddenly things started to change. "Did you feel that, Joey? Did you feel that tremble?" exclaimed Paws. "Oh, yes." Joey felt it, and now he was terrified. He wanted to climb the nearest tree and get away, but couldn't leave Paws. The juttering in the timber and on the track was incredible, and the sound coming from the forest was deafening. The smell was in their nostrils, and it was ahead of the white cloud and approaching quickly. They looked up and could see the white cloud bubbling over the trees. They were frozen with fear. Joey broke their spell. "Quick, Paws! Into the grass!" screamed Joey. With one almighty leap, they both landed alongside the track in the long grass, just in time before the bush monster rushed by with a deafening roar. A bellowing white cloud surrounded them, along with the arid smell that filled their young nostrils, and with a sudden rush of hot air, it was gone. It was over before they realized it, the sound melting into the distance and the white cloud following behind, like an obedient child following a parent. Joey's heart was racing, just as he remembered when the timber-getters tried to grab him out of the tree. "What was that?" said Paws. Paws was thinking about the speed it could travel, how he would love to move that fast across open grassland. Paws was frightened, yet exhilarated by the experience. Sometimes the mob of kangaroos had to move fast over open ground to flee the indigenous people who ate kangaroos. They talked for a while about the bush monster and how frightening it was. "I better get back, Paws, before I miss," said Joey. Paws gave him a quick glance and disappeared into the tall grass. Joey thought about Paws. He was frightened, but not in the way Joey was. They had already lost their home because of the timber-getters. Joey didn't want to leave this place because of this bush monster. Soon Joey was back in the gum trees, which they called home. To his surprise, Koala and Koala were awake, waiting for him. They knew that Joey was getting older, and he needed to experience the bush on his own. They wouldn't always be around to look after him. "Where have you been, Joey?" inquired Koala with a look of concern. This wasn't the time to scold Joey. Koala could sense that something had happened. "I saw a terrible bush monster. It was awful. It made the whole ground rumble and spat out a white cloud that engulfed the trees and made roaring noises that made my ears hurt. There was a rush of hot air. Then it sped away. The smell hurt my nose. It was frightening," Joey exclaimed with terror in his voice. "I don't want to leave this place, but the bush monster—" Joey didn't finish the sentence. "Calm down, Joey. I know what that bush monster is," said Koala. Koala went on to explain to Joey what he had seen. "You see, it's not a bush monster. It's a steam train," Koala told him in a calm voice. "Joey, when you're asleep on your mother's back, we both go and explore. We both saw the humans building the track for the train where we lived before. You were too young to understand what was happening, and after the incident with the timber-getters, we decided we had to leave," said Koala. "Don't worry, Joey. We won't be leaving any time soon. We are both watching what is happening in the valley floor," Koala said while looking at Joey with concern. Koala knew the train itself, although noisy and scary, wasn't what bothered him. It was what it would bring that was of concern. People were their biggest threat. But they were safe for now. This is Lillian Bell signing off, and don't forget to come and visit me at Lillian Bell Books. My next book will be Book 3, Christmas Bells. Where are the Christmas bells? Bye for now.